BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. Welcome to another True Confessions video. What is the subject today? The subject today is I don't like new releases. You may be asking as I adjust my phone, well then what are you doing on BookTube? Because all of BookTube does not have to be filled with new releases, and all of us who love to read don't all read new releases, nor should we. There's no rule. Why would everybody want to read new releases? Some of us really don't. But I have exceptions here and there. But what I've wanted to talk about is I don't get along well with new releases, and it sounds stereotypical, but the majority of the time I get disappointed. I don't get it. I don't know why. It could be a debut book. It could be a 12th book from an author. It could be, I don't know, an author that I've loved in the past, and all of a sudden their newest book I just hate. I have a couple of those. I'll tell you about those. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the wrong time to read specific books. I think that has a lot to do with it, because I've noticed that I'm picking up books a lot lately, and I'll read a few pages and I'm like, nah, this is boring me, or it's not grabbing me, or no, I don't like the writing, and I feel kind of pissy about it and thinking to myself, maybe I should give it more time. But my rational self typically takes over and reminds me there is no reason in continuing with the book that you don't like for whatever reason. So, yeah. I remember when Normal People by Sally Rooney came out, and I went basically based on numerous glowing reviews. I went and bought it. I started to read it. I got halfway through and I couldn't stand it. The eye rolls and the desire to throw the book across the room. Fortunately, it was a library book, so that stopped me. But after the 50% point, I was determined to finish it, and I speed read the last half, and for me, it just never improved. And I can't stand Sally Rooney's writing. It's just me. It's just my preference. And so I have steered very far away from her newest book, and I've never gone back to read her older book. So that's just one example. And, so many people love her writing and love her books. That's great. They just were not for me. And I noticed that there were a lot of other new books in the last few years that I've been on BookTube that everybody loved, or so many people loved. And I'm like, meh, or, oh, this sucks. So it's one or the other. A couple of examples. I started to read Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead, and just did not like it. I did not like the formatting of the story. I didn't really like the content, wasn't interested. The writing didn't really grab me. Another one is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Now, one of his most famous books is All the Light We Cannot See. I didn't like that one either. We read that for book group, and I think I read about a third of it, and I'm like, I'm not enjoying this at all. And it's a beloved book, so maybe it's my taste. But I started reading Cloud Cuckoo Land, and for me, it was just too whimsical and too far-fetched. So I am very much a realist at heart, and Cloud Cuckoo Land didn't do it for me. I also started and put down Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I'm not a Stephen King fan normally, and I don't like the horror. I don't like a lot of the times he tries to write sci-fi, but I have read several other of his books that are mostly the psychological suspense type of books that I have enjoyed. And that's why I even started to read Fairy Tale. Fortunately, it was just a sample ebook, but it just did not grab me. It didn't pull me in. And so I've had these experiences with new releases. It's like, it's turning me off. And I really gravitate towards authors that I've read and loved, who have several books, who have a back catalog. I have bought books that have been around for a while, not talking about classics, but backlisted books, 20, 30, 40-year-old books that have been around for so long, and that there has been so much discussion about them that I'm pretty sure, knowing what type of reader I am, that I'm going to love a specific book. I have some other examples. The three books I just mentioned, Cloud Cuckoo Land, The Great Circle, and Fairy Tale, I DNF'd all of those books. But I have a few books I wanted to show you that I finished that were new releases, and I just was so disappointed. This one is Woman of Light by Callie Fajardo-Anstine, and this was a buddy read with Joe Smith. Joe and I have had 2 buddy reads, and they were both disappointments. This one I was so looking forward to this. I actually won this arc on Goodreads, and I was so happy because I was so looking forward to reading this book, and I really hated it. I finished it, and I was very disappointed. I was disappointed in the writing style and the quality of the writing. It was just not a very well wrapped up story, and I thought, oh my gosh, I was really looking forward to reading this author's work, and I just really did not like that book. And it's like, what is it about the new releases? I don't know. The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles. This was a book I read for my book group, and I loved A Gentleman in Moscow. 5-star book for me. I really enjoyed Rules of Civility, and so I thought it's almost a no-brainer. I'm going to love this book. And I didn't. It was okay. I finished it, but I was bored, and it seemed to me a stereotypical, coming of age journey story, and I just thought it was blah, and too bad for me. One of the most egregious examples of a new release I was so mad about, and I went to Barnes & Noble on the release date of this book. It was a couple of years ago. And I bought it, like they may have been stocking the shelves, stocking the table, and I picked up a brand new copy and I had to buy it, and I started reading it the same day. And this is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. This was abysmal for me. This was a horrible book for me. I hated it. Can't stand how this was written and why The Handmaid's Tale was continued. This is just a book that panders to the viewers of the show on Hulu. I am one of them. I have watched the whole series. I'm all caught up. But I hated this book, and I was so angry and disappointed with it. And I don't know, is it because it's a new release? Is it just an author who's prolific, who came out with her last book or her latest book and just, I don't know, what did she put into it? What was she trying to do in the story? Did she craft the writing? What point was she trying to get across? I don't know, because I hated the book. But it all puts that, I don't know, bad taste in my mouth for new releases. That said, there are exceptions out there, but before I show you those, what I do want to show you really quick, I'm also really, really bad because there are several new releases I've purchased and they're still sitting there on my shelf. I mean, I'm hearing crickets right now. And one of them, some of these were published, I mean, I think one of these at least was published last year. Let me see it. This might be this first one. No, they were all published this year. But Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart, still haven't read it, bought it as a new release. Really looking forward to this. I loved Shuggy Bane. And I think part of me is I'm nervous I'm not going to like their next book, an author's next book. And especially after, loving Shuggy Bane so much, I'm a little nervous that I'm not going to like Young Mungo. I'm a little nervous that I'm going to read it with a more critical, discerning eye. I don't know, but it's still sitting there. I still haven't read it. I really want to. And you know what? These 3 books I'm going to show you, I'm going to pick those up starting in December. The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Here it is. New release. Brand new book. Haven't read it yet. Got it as a new release. Still haven't read it. Maybe 2 months ago? I don't know. When did it come out? I don't know. I bought it immediately. because of my deep love for Hamnet, I bought of course I was going to buy The Marriage Portrait. And I also have a back catalog of O'Farrell's books, some of her backlisted titles, but I haven't read this yet. It's still sitting there. I'm terrified I'm going to hate it. I don't know why. Maybe that's why I'm avoiding these new releases. I'm terrified. I don't want to hate it because I loved Hamnet so much. I also read her memoir, I Am. I loved it. I don't know. I'm scared. And then the last one of these I wanted to show you is Alice Feeney's Daisy Darker. I love Alice Feeney. I've read, I think, 3 of her books so far. Loved them. They were so super fun thrillers, psychological thrillers. And I was dying. I was waiting for this one to come out. I don't usually look for new releases to when they're coming out, but if I see them in some article I'm reading or on a web or page somewhere, and that's what I found with this one is I didn't realize she was coming out with the next one. I saw this cover and I was so excited. And the first chance I got, I ordered this. Still unread. It's still unread, people. I don't know. It could be, I don't have time for everything. It could be, like I said, I'm scared that I'm not going to like these books by these authors I love. I don't know. I'm intimidated. I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. But there have been exceptions. There have been times when, honestly, thanks to BookTube, I've discovered so many wonderful books as new releases based on booktubers who I've matched my style to and my reading taste. And if, they give a certain type of review, it's pretty guaranteed that I'm going to love that book too. And that's what happened with this one, The Trees by Percival Everett. I wasn't planning on reading this book. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize this year. I've talked about this at length, and this is a brilliant book. And it's on my list as the best reads of 2022 for me. But I don't think I ever would have heard of this had it not been for BookTube and it not been for certain people's Booker Prize coverage. I don't know if I ever would have discovered this book on my own. And now I also did a whole thing of how angry I was that I've never heard of Percival Everett because his writing is brilliant. And I now have 2 other of his titles. The other one is Properties of Thirst by Marianne Wiggins. I saw this one all over the internet, and I didn't see a lot of this on BookTube, but this was the book that the Critical Chicks and I read a couple of months ago, and I loved it. Her book, Evidence of Things Unseen, is one of my favorites of all time, and I loved this one. Brand new release, it's not a small book, and I read this pretty quickly and was very glad. It's just a wonderful book. I loved it. And I have 2 new releases that I'm desperately looking forward to. Maybe I now have a TBR for December. I've got 3 so far. Let's see if I should add these next 2. I have Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, who's one of my favorite authors. This is the UK edition. It's in paperback, which I actually love this idea of this early paperback because it's a big book. And it's going to be much easier to read in paperback than in hardcover. And the other new release that I'm really looking forward to is The Birdcatcher by Gail Jones. I just recently hauled this. And this is a really short one. This is going to be a very quick read. But I just read Corregidora by Gail Jones, and again, brilliant writing, loved that book. So it looks like I have a potential TBR for December. These are all the new releases that I am going to do my best to get to in the month of December. And, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm trying to pick these up. I'm going to see if I can do this. Oh, there we go. So this is my potential December TBR, or part of a TBR. We'll see what else I get going on. And when I finish any of these, not if, when, you'll see my wrap-ups on my weekly Saturday videos. So that's my confession about new releases. I'm very much a backlist person, a backlist novel person. I very much enjoy discovering titles that have been out there in the world already. I'm so glad at some of the new releases that I've loved, that I found through BookTube, through prize lists, through any way that I may not have been able to discover them on my own. But yes, for me, those are the exceptions. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know about anything that I said in the video, how you feel about any of the books I showed you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.